Good evening. It's Tuesday, 11th of February, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Global Summit. World leaders convene in Dubai to tackle AI, economic resilience, and climate challenges. Ceasefire tensions. Hamas delays hostage release, accuses Israel of violating truce as Israel wants a possible military response. And Super Bowl Spotlight. Taylor Swift booed by Eagles fans at Superdome while supporting Travis Kelce and Chiefs.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Amarsha Fernando.
Good evening once again. Global leaders, policymakers and industry experts are gathering in Dubai for the 2025 World Government Summit, a premier platform for shaping the future of governance and innovation. With over 30 heads of state, 400 ministers and 80 international organizations in attendance, the summit aims to tackle urgent global issues from AI in the governance to economic resilience and climate catastrophes.
The summit, running from February 10th to 13th, will bring together over 30 heads of state, 80 international organizations, 140 government delegations, and more than 400 ministers, making it one of the largest global gatherings of leaders and experts. A major highlight is the 9th Arab Fiscal Forum, organized by the Arab Monetary Fund, the International Monetary Fund, and the UAE Ministry of Finance. Discussions will focus on fiscal policies, debt management, subsidy reforms, and economic resilience. Meanwhile, the Arab Meeting for Young Leaders and the Young Arab Leaders Forum will serve as a platform to empower youth, foster entrepreneurship, and prepare future leaders. These forums will feature interactive sessions, mentorship programs, and insight from prominent Arab figures. With over 200 sessions and more than 300 global speakers, WGS 2025 aims to drive transformative solutions and foster international collaboration to shape the governments of the future.
Traders in China's export manufacturing hub of Yiwu shrugged off US President Donald Trump's tariffs and moves against China, with some saying they made preparations to soften the blow. Yiwu City in eastern China's Zhejiang province is the world's largest wholesale hub for small manufactured items, exporting products ranging from Christmas trees to custom jewelry, globally including the United States.
Chinese toy trader Zheng Hao says new tariffs from US President Donald Trump don't bother him. Trump promised 60% tariffs on Chinese goods during his campaign, but he revised that down to 10% after taking office. He also plans to cancel duty-free treatment of low-cost packages from China under the so-called de minimis rule. That loophole lets parcels worth less than $800 enter the US tax-free. Trump's moves have reignited fears of a full-blown trade war escalating between the world's two largest economies. China is preparing its own counter-tariffs of up to 15% on some US goods. Abby Jin buys products in Yiwu on behalf of her international customers in markets including the United States. That vendors in the city were not short of orders.
We can respond by slightly reducing our profit margins or adjusting costs. In the end, the additional costs will be passed on to the end consumers in their country, meaning they will ultimately bear the consequences of their own economic policies. For the US, whether they can find a suitable country to replace us as a trade partner is a question they need to consider themselves.
President Donald Trump's plan to downsize the federal workforce remains on hold after a courtroom hearing yesterday afternoon. It's the latest example of how the Republican president's ambitious plans have become ensnared in the judicial system.
A U.S. judge kept his block on President Donald Trump's buyout plan for federal employees in place on Monday. He also said he would consider imposing it for a longer period. The decision is a victory for labor unions who have sued to stop the buyout plan entirely. More than 2 million federal civilian employees had faced a midnight deadline to accept the proposal. The buyout effort is part of a far-reaching plan by Trump, who has tasked Tesla CEO Elon Musk, the world's richest person, with overseeing the purge of federal employees through his Department of Government Efficiency, which is not an actual government agency. Musk's actions have sown panic among federal workers and prompted public protests. Unions have urged their members not to accept the buyout offer, saying Trump's administration cannot be trusted to honor it. A White House official said about 65,000 federal employees had signed up for the buyouts as of Friday. The Trump administration faced another setback in federal court Monday as well. A judge ordered it to fully comply with a previous order lifting its broad freeze on federal spending, after a group of 23 Democratic state attorneys general last week said that some funds remained frozen.
At least 31 suspected Maoist rebels and 2 police officials were killed yesterday in the deadliest combat so far this year in central India. Hundreds of police and paramilitary soldiers launched an operation in the forest of Indravati area in Chhattisgarh state, based on intelligence that a large number of rebels had gathered there.
A fierce gun battle between Indian security forces and Maoist insurgents have erupted in the forests of Chhattisgarh, leaving 31 rebels and 2 police officers dead. 2 other officers were injured as troops conducted the search operations in the region, recovering automatic rifles and other weapons from the insurgents. This marks the largest Maoist-related clash in 2025 and the second major encounter in less than a month. The Maoist rebellion, also known as the Naxalite insurgency, has been active since 1967, demanding jobs, land, and resource distribution for India's poor and indigenous communities. Inspired by Chinese revolutionary leader Mao Zedong, the militants have engaged in decades of guerrilla warfare targeting government infrastructure, police stations, and paramilitary bases. Chhattisgarh, one of India's poorest but mineral-rich states, remains a stronghold for Maoist rebels, who gain support from tribal communities lacking access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. As search operations continue, authorities remain on high alert for further insurgent activity in the region.
And let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. Heading over to the European region now. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis announced his resignation yesterday following mounting pressure from populist opposition, 2 months after a court annulled a presidential election in the European Union country.
On Monday, Iohannis, who served as president for a maximum of 2 5-year terms since 2014, announced his resignation from the role, saying he hopes to spare Romania from further national crisis. He had stayed on as president beyond his 2 terms following the Constitutional Court's cancellation of the December 2024 presidential election due to alleged Russian interference, which had unexpectedly favored a far-right candidate. This has led opposition parties controlling approximately 35% of parliament to initiate impeachment proceedings against Iohannis. To avoid the turmoil of impeachment, the 65-year-old leader chose to step down, with the resignation going into effect on February 12th. Senate Speaker Ilie Bolojan is set to assume the role of acting president until the rescheduled elections expected in May.
Now for an update on the ongoing hostage situation happening in Gaza. Hamas has postponed the next hostage release scheduled to take place in Gaza until further notice, accusing Israel of breaking the ceasefire deal. Israel described the situation as a complete violation of ceasefire and called for the Israeli military to prepare for any possible scenario in Gaza.
Palestinian militant group Hamas had planned to release Israeli hostages this coming Saturday in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. However, that swap may now be in doubt, as the militant group announced on Monday that it would delay those plans, accusing Israel of breaching the Gaza ceasefire agreement. According to Hamas armed wing spokesperson Abu Abida, the release of the Israeli hostages will be postponed until further notice, pending Israel's compliance and retroactive compensation for the past weeks. He added that Hamas will reaffirm its commitment to the ceasefire agreement as long as Israel adheres to it. The spokesperson further explained that for the past 3 weeks, the Israelis did not abide by the terms of the agreement, having delayed the return of residents of northern Gaza, targeting Palestinians with shelling and gunfire, and stopping aid from entering the enclave. Israel has refuted the claims made by Hamas and instead blamed the militant group for violating the ceasefire agreement. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz also announced on Monday that he had instructed his military to prepare at the highest level of alert for any possible scenario in Gaza. In response, the Israel Defense Forces said it was raising its level of readiness in southern Israel and postponing leave for combat soldiers, raising concerns over further escalation of tension in the region. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also moved up a political security cabinet meeting originally scheduled for Tuesday evening after the Hamas announcement. An Israeli official said the Israeli leader is consulting with his security leadership team to discuss response measures.
Santorini, one of Greece's most popular tourist destinations, is facing a new wave of earthquakes, triggering a mass exodus from the island. For many, the tremors bring back haunting memories of the devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake of 1956, which destroyed much of the island and claimed lives of 53.
Santorini resident Victoria Rousseau is terrified about the hundreds of small earthquakes continuing to rattle the Greek island. She survived the deadly 1956 earthquake, which devastated much of Santorini, and memories are resurfacing. Santorini entered a state of emergency last week due to the wave of quakes rocking the island, forcing over 10,000 people to evacuate. Greece is monitoring the increased seismic activity and has deployed the army. While no serious damage has been reported, scientists warn the quake could persist for weeks. This could spell disaster for tourism, as luxury hotels hang off slopes prone to landslides. The possibility of a larger quake hasn't been ruled out.
Nigeria has long been one of the richest oil producers in Africa. Now lithium has become the new promising natural resource. However, illegal activities thrive in the extractive sector, and some experts say a lack of regulation compromises the economic benefits and environmental regulations.
The whitish rock these men are chipping away at is lithium. Hour after hour, they break pieces off the wall using hammers and chisels, usually filling 3 sacks a day to net around $100, more than double Nigeria's minimum wage. On a nearby main road, vendors then sort the lithium by quality to sell to informal networks. The critical metal used in mobile phones and electric batteries has been referred to as white gold for its use in the green energy transition. For resource-rich Nigeria, recent growth in demand has led to a lithium boom. However, it has come at a cost. Mines are often artisanal and illegal without respecting environmental guidelines, and many children are put to work by struggling families. Nigeria is seeking to expand its foreign investment, and multiple Chinese companies have already set up local plants to transform raw rock. However, experts stress the need for more exploration and regulation before outside parties move in. Last year, the Nigerian government began a crackdown on illegal mining operations, arresting multiple Chinese nationals.
As part of an ambitious overhaul of the iconic Louvre Museum in Paris, Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Mona Lisa will be installed in a special exhibition space in an effort to alleviate the crush of crowds jostling to catch a glimpse of her enigmatic smile.
It's the most visited museum in the world, but the people who run it and the people who visit it agree the Louvre needs some serious TLC. The museum was last upgraded in the 1980s when the now iconic glass pyramid, designed by I.M. Pei, was added to serve as its main entrance. Back then, 4 million people visited a year. Today, the museum attracts more than 9 million. The Italian masterpiece tops almost everyone's list when they visit the Louvre. But her popularity makes it harder for people to really appreciate the portrait or other artworks around it, and that's why the museum now wants to move her. An ambitious plan to refurbish the Louvre will see the painting moved to its own separate space, but visitors will need to buy an extra ticket to see it. A new entrance will be added to help manage visitor flow, replacing the pyramid as the main access point.
Okay, thank you.
To help pay for the overhaul, which is expected to cost around $800 million over 10 years, President Macron announced that entry tickets for people from outside the European Union will cost more. This majestic French masterpiece reinventing itself to meet the reality of the modern world.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. And welcome back. A small river in the greater Buenos Aires was dyed a deep and worrying shade of red after what is thought to have been a leak of dye from a nearby factory. A local paper reported residents saying that a nauseating smell was coming off the water and that they suspected the culprit was a nearby tannery.
A river is running red in Argentina and stumping officials as to why. Residents started sharing images of the discolored water on social media last week. They also reported a smell coming from the river. Reports say the stream runs through the municipality of Avellaneda, which is home to a leather-making industry, where animal skins are treated with chemicals. However, it's still unclear what caused the river to turn red and whether or not it's toxic. Reports say local residents have been filing complaints against local businesses for decades because this is not the first time something like this has happened. The river has reportedly turned other colors in the past, including green, violet, and brown. Avellaneda is about 10 miles outside of the capital of Buenos Aires, and environmental officials are leading an investigation to get to the bottom of this mystery.
Police body cam footage that was shot yesterday shows deputies helping to free a giant ocean sunfish that had become stuck in the shallow waters of the Atlantic shores of central Florida. The sunfish was massive, preventing the deputies from easily dislodging it from the sandy shores of Florida where it was trapped.
A swimmer got stuck on a beach in Florida, and sheriff's deputies had to come to the rescue, but it wasn't as easy as helping a person out of the water. A mola, or an ocean sunfish, was lodged in the sand in shallow water. But this deputy was up to the task of freeing it.
No idea if they can fight or not. Yeah, hey bud. I'm trying to help you out here.
The deputy first tried to use his own hands to dislodge the animal. But not only was it heavy, it was also rough to the touch and hard to grip.
This is really rough. It's like sandpaper, like spiky sandpaper back here.
After a few minutes of making little progress, the deputy decided to work smarter. He went to his boat to get a rope, looped it around the mola, and started pulling. Seeing that he was making progress, he kept at it for another minute until the fish seemed to be able to swim away on its own, although slowly.
Taylor Swift was back at the Super Bowl to watch Travis Kelce and his Kansas City Chiefs play the Philadelphia Eagles. Her reception was a whole lot different than last year.
Global pop star Taylor Swift receiving a not-so-warm welcome at last night's Super Bowl. Swift trying to shake it off as many in a crowd of 65,000 people in the Superdome booed when she was put on the Jumbotron. A moment getting attention from everyone, including President Trump, who said the only one that had a tougher night than the Kansas City Chiefs was Taylor Swift on Truth Social.
The amount of booing in that stadium was absolutely horrid.
Swifties coming to her defense right away, showing their support at the game. Even Serena Williams tweeting, "I love you, Taylor Swift. Don't listen to those boos." That treatment, not a new phenomenon for the celeb, as the NFL and its broadcasting partners have received backlash the last 2 seasons for showing too much of Taylor Swift, who's attended numerous games to cheer on her boyfriend, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. But this bad blood between Swift and Eagles fans might go deeper than a simple team rivalry. Growing up in Pennsylvania, Swift actually used to be an Eagles fan herself. Her dad, Scott Swift, also said to be a lifelong Eagles fan, but supporting her daughter's boyfriend, something that clearly didn't sit right with the passionate fans of Philadelphia, who are notorious for giving people a hard time, even booing Santa Claus in the 1960s.
Well, that's a wrap from us on World News Tonight. Up next, Anuradhi Vikramasinghe is standing by for the nightly business report. I'm Amasha Fernando, and we are going to leave you with the visuals of the Carolina Herrera's Fall 25 collection. Thank you for having us and have a good night.